I got down to like 120 pounds, and the anxiety and depression was like through the roof. As embarrassing as this sounds, like I'd be just crying, like driving in the morning to school, just like new baby, like I'd never get to spend time with her. And I had like 8 medications, and I was in my 20s. And most of the time they were each treating, the side effect of another one. It sometimes felt really scary, like I had no power over my own health or my own wellness. And deep down inside, I knew like there was another option. I have the strongest feeling that I'm not supposed to be here.
Well, Cav, we're live, dude.
Oh, cool. Awesome.
We're going.
Sweet.
We're in it.
I'm stoked to be here. Thank you for asking me. We might regret this, but
we won't regret it, Cav. So welcome to the Generational Health Podcast.
Appreciate it.
We're kind of in a different setting today. So this is our other studio that we like to use. So I appreciate you coming in. I know that, so for those that are going to get to know you, Cav is a buddy of mine. We've been friends for just over a year.
Yeah.
But we've been on 2 trips together.
True.
2 ski trips.
We've bonded.
And we've seen some things. We've been through some things together. Cav, you make me seriously cry laughing all the time. So anyway, I've had some cool conversations with you, and I thought, man, it'd be awesome to get you in here on the podcast. And so I reached out to you and said, hey, when are you going to be in town next? And you're just like, actually, I'm going to be there on Monday. So here we are.
Worked out perfect.
This just kind of was impromptu.
I didn't even have time to be nervous about it. So
you wouldn't get nervous.
No.
You have a lot of your own content too, which is pretty awesome and funny too.
Well, I love what you're doing, man. So it's an honor to be on here.
Thanks, man. Okay. So we can go through and talk about pretty much anything. I feel like every time I get in conversations with you about breath work, healing, spirituality, it's always a cool, deep conversation. You have a really cool perspective on things. I feel like I've interviewed quite a few people on here that have gone through various journeys of healing and trauma. Breathwork has come up quite a few times. So I thought, okay, you actually like run breathwork sessions with couples. So I'm like, well, let's get into this. Cause I was I had an interview last week, and specifically came up again, for somebody, for Heston actually. And, I was like, okay, I've never done a breathwork session. I was even thinking about like, we should just do one for the podcast.
Just do one live.
Just do one right now. Cause I've never been through a guided breathwork
Let's set
session.
one up.
So we need to do it for sure. But, before we get into it, Cav, maybe introduce yourself. Who are you? Who's Cav?
Yeah. So deep down inside, I'm Cav. So it's kind of funny. I don't even know how to introduce myself. I'm one of those weird guys that I'm into everything. I get really interested. And when I'm interested in something, I dive very, very deep into it. And I'm obviously passionate about everything you talk about with health. I geek out on that, biohacking and all things health related. Originally, my career, I was going to be a doctor. I actually was going to medical school. I did a year. And then at the end, I decided it wasn't for me and decided to leave. And always did filming and editing as like a hobby growing up, and never once thought I could do it and get paid for it. And after I left medical school, I was just like, I'll dive into that. So I got obsessed with telling stories, learning about people. I've always been a big people person. And so video was a way to really dive into people's stories and learn about them. We did a lot of like really cool nonprofit stuff. And it's just been a passion of mine that I was fortunate enough to start doing as a career. And so I've done that for a long time. I ran my own business, and it's kind of funny you bring up breath work, because that has become, it's not new for me. It's something I've done for a really long time, but it's something I've been super passionate about over the past 3 years, that I started doing in large groups, doing it one-on-one, and doing it with couples like you mentioned. And that's only because it's been such a huge thing in my own life. I can literally say it as hyperbolic as it sounds, that it obviously changed my life, but I honestly think in many ways it saved my life, and it's been incredible for me. So
really quick, going back, medical school, what was it about medical school that made you realize that it wasn't for you?
Yeah, well, it's funny because I feel like I still, in weird ways, like break that down. Like, what did I see then that I didn't see that I could have seen before and saved years of undergrad, pre-med applications, interviews, and all that stuff. And I think I really just in my 20s, I wanted to feel like I was doing something to help people. And so I think from my view of the world, I was like, well, doctors help people. I could be a doctor. And I love science. I loved biochemistry, physiology. And I was one of the cadaver teachers that would lead dissections and teach about the body. And I just really enjoyed that. And then, going honestly, I think what changed it for me was while I was in that process of college, I started having my own experiences with things like anxiety, depression. I had dealt with that a big chunk of my life, but it got really bad during that time. And I remember I just did the things like I started going to the doctor and looking for solutions. And I feel like I have to preface too by saying if I say anything today that makes it sound like I'm a hater on doctors, I don't ever want it to sound like that, because I have a lot of doctors I'm very near and dear to me and close with, and there's so many amazing people that I'm so grateful that they're out there and do what they do. My daughter literally broke her arm last month, and I'm beyond grateful that I'm close to a doctor, and within the day we got her treated and taken care of, and so I hope it never sounds like that. But my experience in the medical system when dealing with anxiety was pretty ugly. And I'm grateful that there's medications and out there, but there was never any other options outside of that for me. And it sometimes felt really scary. Like I had no power over my own health or my own wellness. And um, I think I went to the doctor. I started having anxiety attacks and panic attacks and got on medication, but then I had certain side effects. So I got on another one and another one and another one and another one. And I remember one day like looking into my toiletry bag, and I had like 8 medications, and I was in my 20s. And um, this is a little close for me, but I saw that in my own mom, and it was really scary for me, because she had, a whole table full of medications, and most of the time they were each treating, the side effect of another one. And so for me, it was so eye opening of just like, I'm in my 20s and this is already happening to me. And so, I would have anxiety. So I was on stuff for that. I had migraines, and the migraines made my blood pressure go up. So they wanted me on blood pressure medications, and that made me nauseous. So I was on, and I could go on and on about that, but um, I got some of the scariest health advice from the people that were supposed to be the professionals and the people that we're supposed to entrust with our health. And I had a doctor tell me like benzodiazepines and Xanax are safe. They're non-addictive. There's no side effects, and you can get off them anytime, easy. Another, I had chronic back pain and issues from ski injuries and stuff, and it was like, no, you'll have to be on steroids, surgery, and pain meds the rest of your life, when I was like 32, and not on any of that stuff now, just because I was just like, I can't. That might be true, but I'm going to try all these things first and see how that goes. And so by the time I got into medical school, I was like pretty broken down in my own personal experience of it seemed to me that it was like, okay, we're just going to learn how to diagnose quickly and prescribe. Again, that's not a bash on anyone. That was just my experience at the time. And so I remember talking to a professor of mine like that, what I was struggling with, of like, man, I want to like, if I become a doctor, I really want to like dive into people's like personal history and what makes them tick, like the stress in their life, their family situation. And he just like was like, no, like you don't have time for that. Like, and you don't need time for that. You don't need to know these people. He's like, usually within a couple minutes, I already know what they've got. I know what I'm going to prescribe them, and I get them out, and I have to see about 60 people a day to make good money. And so I was like, well, crap. And it was very disheartening to me. And I remember I called my wife my first day of med school. I was so shaken up. Like, I have the strongest feeling that I'm not supposed to be here. And that was probably super fun for her to hear, you know, like, oh, great. Like she was pregnant with our first baby at the time. And like, that's fantastic. I've supported you all the way to here and now you want to leave. And I remember her just saying like, just give it a week, like give it a week and see how it feels. And by the end of the week, anyone who's been in med school or any, you know, graduate work, like by day 5, you're already just drowning in work and studies and stuff. So it was like, you know, you're at school 8 to 5. I'd run home, eat, and then I'm studying until midnight, 2 in the morning. And I didn't even have time to think like, should I leave or not? So I stayed the first full year, and I kind of reassessed at the end of the year, and I was like, I still feel the exact same. And so that's when I made the decision to leave. And the thing I love, what I'm seeing now though in medicine is like people that you and I like both know, like we're seeing this shift, I think, in medicine where it's like we got to start digging deeper into what's going on. Like we got to start looking at food, exercise, diet. Your stress level plays such a huge role in that. And so I love that I'm seeing more of that, and I'm so encouraged by that happening. And yeah, so that's what happened with med school. That's
Man,
why I decided not to go there.
I didn't know.
I tried to sum that up.
I knew
short.
I knew that you went to med school. Last time we were together, you brought that up, and that was the first time I knew that you had started med school. And I didn't know the reason that you stopped going. I figured it was for a really good reason though, because you're a very thoughtful person. Those can be really tough decisions. I also really respect people that kind of follow those instincts too. I have a buddy of mine, almost kind of opposite of you. He got his bachelor's degree in accounting. I believe he got his MAC at the same time, his master's in accounting. He had all of the testing done for his CPA when he started his like first job at a Big Four. But he couldn't get it until he had a certain amount of work experience under I don't know what the CPA rules are. Anyway, gets a CPA. He's auditing companies, all that kind of stuff. He's just like, he was not happy.
Yeah.
And he devoted a lot of time, money, resources into that career. And he just didn't feel right to him. He wanted to get into medicine. And he went back. So he ended up quitting, went back to school to do the prereqs just to like apply to med school.
Yeah.
Ended up getting into med school, and he's either a brain or a heart surgeon now.
Nice.
So I haven't talked to him for a while.
So not a CPA.
I need to not a CPA anymore. It's just, you know, but I don't know. I think a lot of people just feel like they get stuck in a career path and it doesn't feel right. And anyway.
The funny thing is I spent 2 years shadowing doctors before I went to med school. You have to have so many hours. I think I did like triple the amount of hours I don't know, maybe that's an exaggeration, but I remember loving it. So I was doing way more than expected. And I often shadowed an anesthesiologist because you could see so many different things. You could watch a heart surgery. I saw like C-sections, like anything and everything. So that's why I love shadowing him. But what shocked me in my undergrad was how many doctors told me to get out of it. And I was like, what? Like I'm watching this crazy back surgery going on, and I'm just like, and he's just like bored out of his mind, operating. Like the guy who's an anesthesiologist, he's like, dude, talk to Cav, like tell him what you're doing. He's like, I'm just ripping bone out, like, you know, and I'm just, my mind's blown. Like, this is the craziest thing I've ever seen. And it was so exciting. And I thought it was so cool. But then afterwards he got done and he just looked at me and he's like, I would just get out of this, like, if you can. And I'm like, what? Why? And I think what happens is it's not that it was like, it's not a bad career. It's awesome. But I think what he probably would have said better is like, if you're getting into it for money, you're getting into it for the wrong reasons, don't do it. Because he's like, any job like this might seem really cool in the beginning, but in the end, after you've done it for 20 years, like, it is a job and it's grueling, it's exhausting, the hours are gnarly, and this is so exciting for you, but you got to remember, like, it's a job, and if you're doing it for the passion, then that's great. Like, then you're in it for the right reason. But if it's just like, it seems prestigious to be a doctor, the credentials and the money, then you'll probably be miserable within that's what I took from it, at least. And I
Mm.
think a lot of people I happen to shadow were just like, it's tough. Like, I don't think people realize how tough it can be. So that was always interesting. And I just ignored them. I'm like, I'm different. Like, it's not going to matter to me. So it's funny that I ended up leaving for a totally different route, which when I left, I had this moment where I went in and talked to a professor. So I was sick all the time. I got down to like 120 pounds, and I was just, the anxiety and depression was like through the roof. We had a new baby, and it was just like, as embarrassing as this sounds, like I'd be just crying, like driving in the morning to school, just like new baby, like I'd never get to spend time with her. And but I remember like, and professors even calling me in like, dude, you do not look good. Like, you are not looking good. We need to figure this out. We need to do something to help you. And I remember like, I had like a month after summer, and I took that time to just like rest, eat well. I was like hitting the gym. I was just like, and I remember going in 2 months later and telling a professor, like, I think I'm gonna leave. And she was literally like, I'm not even going to try to talk you out of it. Just the way you look now versus 3 months ago. Like, I wish you the best. Like, that's awesome. And it was just like, yeah, it just was like, I don't know, but I almost think it took that for me to step away. Like, it was so gnarly and so tough at the time mentally. And so I stepped away. And of course, like, we didn't have like a solid backup plan at the time. Like, I think we had like $300 in our bank account, and we had family, my brother-in-law and sister-in-law that lived in California. And I was kind of just like, dude, what if we moved there? And I've always done filming. What if I gave it a try? Like, they're like, you should. And we moved and had this moment where we were just like, what did we do? But I remember telling them when I was leaving, and this like immense like weight lifted off of me, and that's what I kind of carried with whenever times got hard after. I kind of just or my wife would remind me, like, if things ever get tough, then that's proof that you kind of forgot how bad it was, like, at the time. And it's almost like, I don't know, I had to recall that occasionally just to kind of move forward. But yeah, so it's interesting. It's interesting how, but I still have this love for the medical world, and I geek out on it a lot, just not as a doctor. so,
Yeah.
so we can talk about breath work, or we can talk about that later. But for me, breath work was always introduced to me the way it was in the yoga world, and it was very woo woo and spiritual. And that's why I always pushed it away, because I was just kind of like, that's not interesting to me. But when I started learning about it on a physiological level and the science behind it, that's when I was like, this is what hooks me to want to try this,
Well, yeah, you're super health conscious, and you're very much ingrained in like medicine, but medicine's evolved too, and medicine's very broad. You say that, and it's just like, okay, well, you have like your ultra traditional Western medicine, and then you got like this full like holistic piece on the other side. And in a way, like, my story is, I didn't go to med school, but we kind of grew up in a similar area too. I was doing like college courses in high school to prepare me for pre-med.
Right.
So I was doing like emergency responder stuff. I was taking like pre-med anatomy, physiology classes. I actually wanted to be an anesthesiologist. That was what
Awesome.
like I wanted to do.
Yeah.
I liked the numbers side of things. I knew they made a lot of money. So I was just thinking like, okay, this would be a great career path.
You get a lot of reading
love
done.
Medicine. You can just get tons of reading, charts. You just sit there, tell the other doctors to tell you what is going on. No, I always just, it sounded so cool. And I just thought, I'm going to, and radiology was actually kind of cool too. I had a little procedure done when I was in high school, and it was all done with a screen. I was awake the whole time. And I remember the doctor, his last name was Dr. Stringham up at the University of Utah. And I was awake through the whole thing, and they're just talking to me. And I'm like, I thought it was the coolest freaking thing. They were doing a surgery looking at like some screen, and he's just like going through some deal. He had like a thing in my vein or whatever, and he's just tracking it. I'm like, this is amazing. I loved it. But then years later, I just kind of got more business minded, and I thought maybe I'll do like medical device sales or something.
Right.
And then kind of went, and I ended up just like kind of going more of a businessy route. But I always leaned on my own like health and fitness journey as where my passion was. It was always there.
Yeah.
So now like full circle, after a decade of being like 13 years in, or longer, if you count grad school after a few years of corporate America too, 15 plus years later, I found myself back in this realm. But it's a little different now, because now like you have this almost this entirely new market of functional medicine, naturopathic medicine mixed in with some holistic pieces to it, where now we're trying to understand whole body health, not just cause and effect, not just, hey, you have a symptom, I'm going to get you a prescription for that.
Yeah.
Let's figure out root cause. And that's what got me super excited about it, because I thought, okay, well, there's the lifestyle pieces, but then how can we marry some of the Western medicine with the lifestyle piece to fully optimize? And now peptides are a whole new thing that's super interesting. Yep. So anyway, kind of similar. I didn't go to med school like you did, but one part before we get into breathwork, because I want to understand breathwork better. But one thing you said that I think really cripples so many people is just what you were saying about getting put on a medication and then another medication to handle the side effects of the first, and then this whole domino effect. I also have family members that have dealt with the same thing. I'm just curious how you got out of that, because I think a lot of people get stuck in it, and it's really hard to know, like, they feel really nervous about stopping certain things, or how you manage through that. So how were you able to back out of being on various prescriptions for different things?
I wish I could say there was like one experience, but unfortunately for me, it was like 20 that like compiled into like a few years back, just stepping back and being like, whoa.
You're on 20 different medications?
No, sorry.
Or 20
like
things.
20 experiences.
Oh, I see. I was like,
compiled.
You were on 20 medications?
I was on like 30 medications at the time. It was when I couldn't recall what did what is when I quit. No, it was I wish it was like one experience that I was like, hey, this isn't good. But it was literally like so many moments over years that just compiled to where I remember just being like, this is a problem. I had many of those moments of like, whoa. One of them was like, I had a ski injury, really bad ski injury, 2009. I got married a month later, so I didn't even go to the doctor. I knew I had a really bad concussion. My back killed, but I was like, I'm in the middle of school and I'm getting married next month. So I just literally did what like a 25-year-old does. And he's just like, I'm good. Like it'll go away eventually. And like, I remember just for years, dealt with back issues because of it. Like lots of things helped. Surfing helped and lots of movement helped. But, I remember finally just finding like a pain specialist in California when I lived there. And I went in and he just did I got like MRI on my back and looked it over. And I walked out with 5 prescriptions and 0 suggestions otherwise. Like no movement, nothing that could help it. It was like, you're eventually going to need surgery. Here's a muscle relaxer. Here's a steroid. Here's an opioid. And I can't remember like prescription strength ibuprofen and something else. And I walked out and I was just like, okay, like this is what I mean. I wish that would have been the moment where I was like, I got to figure something out. But it was that and so many others where deep down inside, I knew like there was another option. Like I could figure this out myself. And deep down, I'm like, there could be another option. But because there was a professional authority figure telling me to do this, I just walked out. Was like, okay, this is what I got to do. And I remember for some reason I got this instinct to call a buddy of mine who's a pharmacist. And I was just like, hey, I walked out of my, pain doc's office and this is what he gave me. What do you think? What should I do? Like, just go for it. This is it. I'll eventually have to have surgery and I just need to take this as long as I can. And he's like, I'm not your doctor. So I'm not diagnosing you. I'm not telling you what to do. If I was you, I'd throw all of those in the garbage and try and move your body and see if you can do it that way first. And I was like, whoa, no one's ever told me that, who's like in the medical field at all. No one's told me any other options. So that was a moment where I was like, okay. He's like, I just deal with this all the time. So it's medication, surgery, and then they usually end up having, and that's unfortunately what happened to my mom. She ended up having 3 back surgeries and painkillers. They never told her any side effects or to be conscious of anything. And she's in her 60s and just stops taking an opioid and has like like an what do you call it, like an addictive reaction to it from getting off of it, and
The withdrawal.
yeah, withdrawal. And she was just like, I wasn't taking this for any bad reasons other than not to have pain. And so there was that, I remember, which ended up being anxiety. I was having chest pains and went to a doctor, and he's like, yeah, that's weird, just here's this. It was a medication for chest pains. And I was like, okay. And again, I went home and was just like, he told me to take this, so I need to take this. But then I remember like dumping him in the toilet, because I was like, something inside me is like, you're like, you don't need this. And again, like, I'm not a doctor. I left med school. So if someone's listening to this, like, okay, I'm just going to dump, I'm not saying that. I'm just, for me, I just deep down knew, like, myself, just this something was like, there's other answers to try first. Try something first. And so I went through this long thing of just health fear, because with anxiety, I don't know if a lot of people know this, but if you deal with chronic anxiety, you often have physical symptoms that go along with it that mimic sicknesses. So a lot of people turn into hypochondriacs. They're fearful that they get chest pain, so they think they have heart issues, so they go get an echo. They go get a stress test. They start having tingling sensations, so they get MRIs because they think they have multiple sclerosis. I say people, this is what I did. This is literally my story. Like, I had MRIs, x-rays, CT scans, like blood tests, blood work, and every time they were clear. They were fine. And so and then with anxiety, of course, you come out and then it tells you, like, well, maybe just one more test will, like, like, reveal the thing you have that's making you feel the way you feel. And unfortunately for me, it did come to that, where it was all those experiences, and I finally was just like, I think I just need to deal with the underlying issue, and that's dealing with chronic anxiety. Like, I've had it for so long, and I got to figure out a way to deal with it. And so, one thing, what I mentioned about medication, I'm so glad that there's options for people, is because they do serve a purpose, and they help people when they're in that state where it's like, I can't rationally calm this anxiety down. It does help people get a grasp on it to start taking important steps to make changes. And so for me, like, it was all those things combined that after years and years that I finally just had that moment of, like, unfortunately, I need to just deal with the anxiety. And that's the most uncomfortable thing, because as morbid as this sounds, and I think maybe only people who've dealt with chronic anxiety, I don't mean this to sound disrespectful at all, but you get to a point sometimes where you're like, I just want them to, like, I want to get an MRI and they find something in my brain and they're like, that's what the problem is. We just need to remove that and you won't feel what you're feeling anymore, because it mimics, like, all the things that you think are just like chronic diseases. And when it's clear, you almost have this moment of, like, defeat, because you're like, you think it's like this mystery illness, but in reality, your body's just hypersensitive and very nervous system that's very unregulated, and it's just responding to stress. And so for me, it got to where I was having, like, anxiety attacks in very, very non-threatening situations, like out to dinner, or like in friend social situations, or like if I was at a place where I didn't drive, it would just trigger this, like, deep, like, innate anxiety of just like, you got to get out of here. You're not safe. You have to go back to your safe, like, little home. And at the time when I was working, doing filming, I was traveling a ton. So then it made, like, travel stressful and all of that. So, for me, I remember hearing things about breath. The funny thing is, my dad actually passed away like 12 years ago. But the funny thing is, when I was a kid, he would always try to get me to do some type of breath work. I think he probably saw it in me as a kid. Like, dude, you need to, like, you're an overthinker. You stress over situations that you don't even need to, like, think twice about. So he would try to get me to meditate and breathe. And I remember I was just thinking I was terrible at it because my mind would wander or whatever. And now we teach people that that's actually a sign that you're good at it. If you notice that your mind is wandering, you're present with your breath and your thoughts, and it's actually a good thing. And so so the story doesn't go on for hours. Basically, I got to a point where my anxiety was so bad where I just was like, I'll try anything and everything. Like my wife was like, come to yoga with me. I was like, I can't do that. I don't want to like sit still with my thoughts. I don't want to like, cause I think deep down I knew there was just some underlying things I needed to like face. And, so I started reluctantly going to yoga with her. And I remember during like Shavasana at the end, if people don't know, do yoga, they like, you lay down at the end and you're just still and silent. And I would always get up and leave during that time. Like, I'm just like, I gotta go to the bathroom real quick, or like, cause I hated sitting still. And over time, I just slowly exposed myself to that stillness a little more and a little more. Or I would do hot yoga to where you get to the end and you're just like so tired that it feels really good. And then we went to a friend's yoga who would start introducing just like 2-minute little, just powerful breath works at the end of yoga. So that was like my little intro to it. And I remember just like for the first time feeling like completely still. Like I don't feel any rush to get up from where I am right now. I'm fine here and I'm fully present. I'm not thinking about my work, my kids' worries. I'm not thinking about that thing I said 2 weeks ago that person's not even thinking about anymore. And so I remember telling my wife, like, I feel like I need to find like a full on breathwork experience like we do with her, but I've heard that they do them for like 30 minutes and I want to go see what that's like. And so my wife told me afterwards it was like a 30-minute drive. And she told me later, like the whole drive, she was literally just like praying to like anyone that would listen, just like, please make this a good experience for my husband. Cause there was like and I hope it doesn't sound like the anxiety for me was very like come and go. It wasn't 10 years of just like, I'm a total mess. For me, it would just really ebb and flow. And a lot looking back now, the patterns are so clear of life and work and kids and stuff. But this was during a really, really bad one. And it was like kind of just after COVID, like all my work had stopped in California. Like you can't shoot, you can't come out here. And so I just would get call after call after call in 2020, like, we're going to postpone this for 3 months. Okay, now we're postponing it for a year. We might not do it anymore. And the first 2 months were epic of COVID. It was like, great, I get to chill with my family and stuff, and it's fun. But then as the year went on, I just noticed my anxiety level just going up and up and up, because those fears of a husband and a dad of like, what am I going to do? How am I going to provide for my family? So around that time, it got really bad. And so we went to this, I totally do that where I'm like, I'm over here, and then I bring it back to the story.
Yeah, that's good.
But we're driving up this breath work, and my wife's just like, man, I hope please, like, let this help. And I remember showing up, and the facilitator said one thing that really stuck with me. And he's like, you might walk out of here and breathwork might be like your new thing and you love it. Like so much so you're going to want to do it every day. Or you might hate it and you never want to do it again. But the only way to know that is if you commit to showing up 100% tonight. And you breathe when it gets uncomfortable, you feel it, you face it, and you fully immerse yourself in the experience, and you don't run away from it. If you feel anxious, you face that and you let your body feel it. And if you feel laughter, then you let it out and you laugh. If you feel like you want to cry, then you cry. And I remember hearing him say that, and I'm just like, I'm going all in. Like, I'm doing it 100%. Like I'm going to drive home tonight knowing that I fully did this. And I can't even describe the experience that I had unless you've experienced it yourself, or you've seen breath work, or you've had these kind of like, I don't know if I'd call it an existential experience, but it felt like that, where like I went through all those things he talked about. I was like bawling like a kid, like all this weight from the years just felt like it it was just right below the surface and it just came out. And I was just like bawling. And then I would start laughing that I was crying so hard. I was laughing my head off. And then I was crying again. And then I was back in the breathing and just totally still normal. And it was just like, I was so shocked at what was happening to my body. But I remember him just saying like, all these things can happen. So just like, let it happen. And he's repeating all the phrases. We repeat them now when we do breath work, but it's like, you got to feel it to heal it, like where your focus goes, energy flows, all these like phrases where probably 10 years ago I'd have been like, you're so annoying. Like that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And now I remember just hearing those and just fully being there. And I remember getting to the end of breath work, and we probably sat there afterwards after we were done breathing, like holotropic breath work, like powerful breaths. And when we got done, we probably sat there for about 20 minutes, just calm music, a meditation. And I remember thinking to myself, like, I could sit here for hours and be completely still and fine. My mind was completely still. And I felt so much joy. I just felt so much love for, like, I mean, for the sound extreme, but for one of the first times, like for myself, like I felt so much love for myself. And I felt like, I walked away feeling like, dude, you're a fighter. Like you will do anything for your family, for your wife. And like, I felt this for the first time, like, good job. Like you, like a pat on the back. It's okay. It's not cocky. It's not like shameful to be proud of yourself. And I just felt this immense like love for myself. And then my wife, she was there, and then my kids. And I remember just, when we got done, I literally like ran up to the facilitator and I was like, how do I learn how to help someone else have that experience that I just had? Literally right after. And he's like, he like set me up for, there's actually like a certification happening in a couple months, and it's like a week-long thing. And you learn how to do this. You learn how to share it with people and like how to help them have a good experience. And I remember saying, like, if I can help one person have a similar experience to what I just had, not even the same, but just something where they walk away feeling like better than when they came in, like, I want to do it. And so I went to the certification, geeked out on it like I do everything. And within a few months started sharing it one-on-one with like family and friends. And then just as the word got out, people just started asking us to facilitate them. So we do anything from one-on-one to, we've had people hire us to do family breathwork sessions, like with a group of family and kids. We usually recommend people are later in their teens. We don't usually do it with like, we do it with our kids, but very chill, We've done, corporate retreats for people, for their business, their sales team. And dude, I feel like I just talked for like 45 minutes, but that's like, I'm insanely passionate about it because it means a lot to me personally. And I've been so grateful to be able to introduce people to it. And I love watching people come in with that look on their face of complete skepticism. Like, this is ridiculous listening to you describe it. And then they walk up to us afterwards and literally have that look in their face like I did. Like, what did you just do to me? Like, what just happened? I don't know what happened. And I tell all of them the exact same thing. Like, you probably feel this inclination to like look at this facilitator or the teacher as the one who did it for you, but it was not at all. It was your own breath, your own technology that's built into your own system, and it was all you. And that's why I think it's so powerful for people.
Man, that's awesome. See, I've said it before. I need to do it. Because the people I've talked to about it have had similar experiences, whether it's like a spiritual awakening, almost like a personal revelation type experience, very introspective, realizing that they are enough, they are awesome, they are amazing.
Yeah.
I think it's hard for us to admit a lot of those things to ourselves. But yeah, I need to do it for sure. I'm curious, like, why do most people seek breath work, like that you've worked with? Like, what is it that is bringing people to want to try it out or to?
For me, I can only speak for me personally. The vast majority of people is negative self-beliefs. Like, vast majority. And when I say self-belief, it can be around their mental and physical health, financial, negative self-belief. They self-sabotage constantly. Their relationships keep falling apart. And they're noticing the pattern of it's like a story that they've been running with within their own mind for some people their whole life. It's something they learned maybe from the way they were raised, or it's something they picked up along the way, just a negative self-belief about themselves, and they show up and they do it. There is a big, vast, I think a lot of people coming into it now because I think a lot of people are hesitant to try breath work because they hear all the spiritual stuff and that might not be something they connect with. But now all the science-backed research and physiological stuff is now coming out. So a lot of people now are coming because they're like, I want to increase my lung capacity. I want to increase my ability to hold my breath or breathe. I want to increase my training, and all that helps. And now people are learning between sauna, cold plunge, breath work. They've learned about hormetic stress, the healthy version of stress that you choose every morning to do yourself. That's why so many people are obsessed with the cold plunge, is because it's awful. No matter how many times you do it, you're like, you get in, you're like, how is this not easy for me at this point? It's hard. But that journey and those 3 minutes that your mind goes through of like your brain telling you you're about to die to a minute in of just like, you got this, dude. You could go all day in here. You're fine, and then you get out, and that natural dopamine rush that you didn't have to take something to feel that way. And it's just our own body's ability to survive, but also like thrive, and I think that a lot of people are coming into breathwork now from that side now too.
Yeah, it's breathwork's crazy because like what you talk about, the physiological side of it, I'm trying to understand like how that even happens, because people I've talked to, it almost puts them into kind of like a psychedelic state.
Oh yeah.
Where kind of like, to your point, when you said that you were crying so hard that you started laughing, that sounds a bit psychedelic.
Oh
like
yeah.
That's something you would probably see people that are on drugs or something doing, right? When I say drugs, I mean like THC or something else that's similar that kind of puts you in that state. So how is it doing that? So like when you're doing breath work, and again, I've never done it, so I don't know like the big breaths and how you get to that mental state of being almost in a psychedelic trance where you're kind of out of body, looking at yourself differently.
Yeah.
What's happening? Like,
yeah. And I've done both, so I can confirm that it does feel like a psychedelic.
You've done all of the above.
I've done everything. No. I did ketamine treatments under a doctor's supervision. I've done guided mushroom and ketamine, and for sure. So what I love about breathwork though, which some people are fearful of psychedelics, is psychedelics can be, it's about set and setting, who you're with, who's the guide, where you are, what's going on in your life at the time. And it can be a good experience, it can be a bad experience. But what I love about breathwork is you are in the driver's seat. Like your breath is the brake and the gas. We have people that feel like it's a little too intense. And so they can slow their breathing down, and then they can come back into it. So I like to say you're in that driver's seat. But we tell people like, get high on your own supply, because you're literally like breathing to a point where you, they call it transient hypofrontality, where you literally, when you breathe like that, after about 10 minutes, your body, your breath becomes very cyclical, and your mind, I compare it to the cold plunge. Like the first 30 seconds in a cold plunge, you literally feel like it's the worst feeling. You feel like you're going to die, like your body is stressed and all these things. And then something weird happens where I think your body knows we're in this, we're not leaving. So it almost like gets on board, and the things start happening in your body. You actually feel yourself, you've experienced this, you feel yourself literally start to warm up, and you feel like you just feel this surge of energy. It's like this life force kind of running through you. And breathwork does the same thing. About 10 minutes in, I think your mind knows that it's in this for the long haul. So then it starts to like have physiological responses happening to like keep you going, keep you like, it knows you're safe. It knows you're not going to stop. So it kind of just is like, I'm going to stop fighting against this, and I'm going to kind of go with it now. And so from a physiological perspective, when I hear stuff that sounds too good to be true, I always have to look it up. Like you could ask my wife, she calls me the devil's advocate sometimes, because I'll hear something, I'll be like, that just sounds too good to be true. It doesn't sound good. Like, I think people can get very dogmatic about breath work because they can almost treat it like a a cure all to everything, and I don't. I just think it's a beautiful like modality that I think is great for people to experience. But there are literal DMT centers in our body. There's some in our lungs. There's for sure one in our pineal gland, and they measure this, that when you do breath work, that it actually is a natural release of DMT. So people have what they consider a psychedelic experience because that's literally happening naturally in your body. And so I've had people come up to me, and again, this is what's the word for it? Like it's not a science journal, what I'm about to say. It's like someone's opinion, but it'll come to me. Anyway, I've had so many people come up to me at the end, and they're like, dude, I've done psychedelics, and that was like the wildest of all of them,
Hmm.
you know? And and they're blown away that they're like, that's the only thing I can compare it to is like a psychedelic experience. And they were just breathing. So you definitely have a natural release of DMT. Like so much physiologically is happening in your body. So I if anyone's done breath work for an extended period of time, and I probably should have unpacked breath work a little bit, but I just call breath work conscious breathing because our breathing is unconscious. We do it subconsciously all the time, but when we consciously breathe, that's when we go into breath work, and it can be, you know, like box breathing, 4 in, 4 hold, 4 out, 4 hold, or the 4-7-8 breath, 3-part breath. There's so many just slow breathing techniques. And when we're talking about what we're talking about, we're more in the holotropic breath work. People think of Wim Hof. They think of powerful breaths. I think, I don't know which one. I was told Tony Robbins does one before he uh, does speaking engagements, like a breath of fire, you know, where you're like forcing air out of your nose. These are all techniques to like control our nervous system. But when you breathe like this, like you think of the role of carbon dioxide in our body, one of the roles is it dilates our blood vessels. So when you breathe like this, you're exhaling a lot of carbon dioxide. You're actually, it's the reverse of what, when someone's having an anxiety attack and they tell them to breathe into a paper bag, they're just breathing their own carbon dioxide. So it actually has a calming effect on the body, and it's dilating their blood vessels. So when you breathe like this and you're exhaling a lot of carbon dioxide, it's actually doing the opposite, and it's constricting your blood vessels. So we always warn people of this because there's a symptom with breath work called tetany, where your hands cramp up and they go into this shape. We call it like T-Rex hands or crab claws, and your hands, they start cramping and they go into this, and it's literally with just like a constriction of your blood vessels happening. And then when you calm down and ground your breath afterwards, everything kind of calms down. And you think like, why would I want to do that? But all of that happens in exercise. It happens in hormetic stress. It happens in cold plunging. But our entire circulatory system is 60,000 miles in length, right? Like from capillaries to our aortic, like aorta, like it would wrap around the earth like 2.5 times. That's how much we've got running through our body. So when we're breathing like this, I visualize it like an entire workout for our circulatory system. And so there's a lot of benefits to that. They studies show, you know,
Yeah. Which
Stu-
studies? Your
studies
own
show
studies.
these studies I've done.
Yeah.
This page called Wikipedia. You know, I just speak from my own experience, but like, you know, they talk about studies show that it can lower blood pressure. Definitely, my experience is it's lowers stress and anxiety. And I heard so long ago the benefits of, I feel like you could speak to this better than I can, but the idea of winning the morning, right, is like how mentally strengthening that is to win the morning and not let the morning like win you. That's what was so I did that breathwork experience, and then when I went home, that's where I started seeing these huge changes in my life. Was like, I'm no longer gonna wake up and just let my thoughts run the story. I'm going to wake up and I'm going to choose, like my dad used to always quote the book, As a Man Thinketh, because it's all about like, as a man thinketh, so he is. And I always would just roll my eyes at him like, dude, what? I don't even know what that means. But now that he's gone, I have my own kids. I feel like I'm saying the same thing to them. Like what we think forms and shapes our reality. So I started waking up the second my eyes would open. I would go into my breathwork routine and I would do my like affirmations, like today's going to be an awesome day. Like I'm grateful for this. I would list out the things I'm grateful for. And that's how I would start my day. And it wasn't overnight. All of a sudden, all my problems were gone, but I just noticed what a huge difference things started 3 months down the road, 6 months, literally 6 months down the road, my life was completely different. And I truly believe, as corny as this sounds, it started with first my mindset. And then breath work was a modality like to help me with that. But it all started with mindset. And like, unfortunately, like admitting that I was playing like a victim role in my mind a lot of times. And I'm not speaking for anyone else other than me, but in the moment it was like, life is hard, life's not fair, life is scarce, there's scarcity all around me. And switching that to like, life is abundance, like there's abundance all around me, there's opportunity all around me, yeah, and it's wild.
So for people that struggle with maybe self-worth, self-perception, anxiety, depression, what are some things that maybe, without going to like a guided class, what are some things that they could do at home?
Yeah. One of my favorite people that talks about this is Dr. Amen. One of my favorite people on social media that talks about this. He's been a MD for who knows how long. He's seen thousands of people. He does brain scans, and his remedies are often the most simple. They're like learning to consciously breathe and slow your breathing down, and to change your mindset will change your life. He's like, that's my prescription for the vast majority of people I see for anxiety and depression. I start there, and then we can talk about medication and other things. And so he's not opposed to any of that, but he's like, but first, let's see if we can get to the root of some of these issues. And for a lot of people, it's not that their breathing's bad, so they have anxiety. It's that breath is the connection to our nervous system. It literally, it controls our heart rate. It controls our nervous system. And so when people are stressed and they're anxious, they start breathing heavily, your body just responds accordingly. It ramps up your heart rate, your nervous system goes into sympathetic fight or flight. So then you start feeling tingly, your pupils dilate, you have this full on physiological response. And he teaches, like, if you can learn to interrupt the pattern and slow your breathing down, and it might not be this miracle fix the first time, but if your first response can be to think of your breathing and to slow that down, and then to start working on your thoughts and how you view yourself, he's like, so many people, it changes their lives. And so I would say, again, speaking as someone who has dealt with anxiety most of their life, but not your doctor, to really get into some type of breathwork habit. And that can be as simple as, Huberman talks as simple as a 1 minute 3-part breath, where you inhale slow in your nose, you inhale a little more at the top, and then you just, like you're blowing out of a straw out your mouth, make your exhale twice as long as your inhale. He talks about doing that 1 minute a day. He talks about doing it in the morning. If you have a lunch break, maybe before you go to bed, it can be literally as simple as that. But I think I don't mean to sound dogmatic about it, but I think the breath is honestly the key to unlocking a lot of that, because it's connected to our thoughts, it's connected to our nervous system and everything. I started seeing a lot of those things change once I started consciously, like, I'm going to consciously control my breath, and then work on my thought patterns and mindset along with it. So,
well, I think our nervous systems are just like overloaded right now all the time with stuff, so it's like, that's what I love about this, is it's just like, we have our phones in front of us and our computers and work and kids and all the things that we stress about, finances, we stress about jobs, all that. So figuring out a way to calm the nervous system, if it can be as simple as just, because if you focus on your breath, it will distract your nervous system from the things that are driving it crazy, right? Because now all of a sudden it's almost like a way of meditation. You're just like, oh, you're focused on this one thing, and that's like, you're in that moment only. It forces it.
Yeah.
Because it's really hard for me to meditate too. I struggle sitting in a quiet place and just trying to be like ultra present. My mind starts to wander. It starts to think about all the stuff I have to do, or the things I didn't do, or whatever it is. And I'm like, dang it, now I got to bring it back in. So like I suck at meditating. Like I seriously, I'll try like sit in a room, it's quiet. I'm like, okay, take some time. I'm gonna try to meditate, and I always screw it up. But if I focus on my breathing, that's where it changes,
Yeah.
because it's almost like it forces you to. You can't think about anything else when you're counting, and you're just like kind of like what you said about Huberman. He said like what do you say, 3 seconds in,
Yeah.
3 seconds in, pause at the top, and then take a little bit, and then how many seconds out?
Yeah. I mean, Dr. Amen suggests twice as long on the exhale than the inhale.
So
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 yeah. So
super
you could
slow
do
on the
like
exhale.
slow three
Yeah.
second exhale or inhale, and then like a 6 second
So you
exhale.
do that, and it's just like there's no way around it. It is like a form of ultimate meditation in that moment. So
Yeah.
it's
Well,
pretty
and I don't
cool.
mean to sound dumb, but I mean, maybe I am trying to sound dumb. I don't know. But when you said like, I suck at meditating, like that's kind of a story like you're running with, is like, oh, I'm terrible at this, or I suck at meditating. And I think I think even for you, it's like, I don't think you suck at meditating. I think it's just you're a very active, busy person. And like when you try and meditate, your thoughts wander, or you think of all the things you got to do because you got a lot of responsibility. But that in itself, in my opinion, is a form of meditation. It's a form of like it's like conscious breathing, conscious meditation of being present. And the moment you think, oh man, my mind's wandering, and you bring it back to your breath, that's as much as it doesn't feel like it, it's it's interrupting a pattern, and it's
Hmm.
bringing you back to your breath. And so people try for years and years and years to get to where they can just sit there and not think about anything. But I think it's just as beneficial to be like, oh, my mind's wandering, and I come back to breathing. And it might be a second later and your mind's wandering again, and you bring it back. So I think that's a good exercise. The great thing about holotropic breath work is like your mind's not wandering. Like it's for me, that's what was a unlocking moment for me of calming the mind, because when you're breathing powerfully like that, like your mind is not thinking about like the bill you got to pay, work tomorrow. It's not thinking, and then those thoughts might come and they might go, and they might come and go, but it takes work to breathe like that and keep it going, that you often notice. Like we've done 30 plus minute breathing sessions with a massive group of people, and we've had people come up like, so how long was that? Like 5 minutes? And we just start laughing like, dude, it was 30 minutes. Like an hour that you were laying there. And they're like, there's no way. And I'm like, I'll show you the playlist that I played while you were there. It was like 7 songs, and you thought it was like one song, and it just has always been a reminder to me of how deep people go. And these are people who've never done it before. These aren't experienced breathwork instructors, like, or like people, veterans who've been doing it forever. I remember one time we had a guy, it's often, I don't mean this any negative about men, because this was me too. Like it sometimes takes another person dragging us to something like this to give it a try. But I remember we usually explain to people, like we explain how we're going to breathe tonight, like what you're going to experience, like physically what you're going to feel. And when I go through the explanation of why breath work is beneficial and how it's helped me, like I always kind of scan who we're talking to. And I just remember there was this dude who just had that look on his face, just like, you're such an idiot. Like this is total BS. And I personally love that, because I'm like, I want to talk to him afterwards and just see what it was like for him. He kind of had this look on his face and just kind of like looking around. And he literally like, we just let people have their own experience too. Like we don't interrupt them. We teach them how to like be in their own thing. And I remember just watching him just like cry during it. And I was just like, oh, freak. Like, I hope he's all right. I hope, he's having a good experience. And we finished it off. And he literally just walked up to me afterward, tears in his eyes. He's like, I was looking for every excuse not to come tonight. Like I did not want to be here. My 16-year-old daughter was going through some things, and I just was like, I should stay. And then work has been stressful, and life's been really, overwhelming for whatever reason. And I did not want to come. And he's like, I can't believe like I almost missed this tonight. And I don't know, like I get chills like talking about it, because I just remember feeling like I just saw him, and I was like, I know exactly what you're talking about. Like, I'm so glad you're here tonight. Um, yeah, I think it's really beautiful, and I think the experience that he had is like so many people have it, and it's like they almost for a moment like are able to kind of set things aside, and a lot of people come up and they're like, the probably one I did a month ago, there's this guy who, he owns like a multi-million-dollar business. He's got hundreds of employees, and he scheduled like a one-on-one breath work with us. And he's like, I just want to give it a try. And he's like, I've done everything. I've done all these things, and I'm open to everything. But we did breath work, and he walked up and he's like, I don't know if I've had a better experience in my life than that. And I'm like, I don't know. I tend to exaggerate that. I was like, and he repeated it again. He's like, I know that sounds wild, but I can't remember a better feeling where I just felt like I could sit there forever. And I just felt so joyful and like everything's going to be okay. And I'm not saying this is the right attitude to have, but he's like, he's dealing with all the stress with work. And he's like, I had this moment where I was just like, it doesn't matter. Like, it'll be okay. And it doesn't mean like work doesn't matter or family or life doesn't matter, but he's just like, the amount of stress I'm putting on myself does not matter, and it's not serving me. And so, yeah, man, I like it a lot.
So I was listening to Diary of a CEO podcast this morning when I was at the gym, and I was thinking about the conversation you and I were going to have.
Just squatting 700 pounds this morning. Just listening.
I did do legs. I'm actually kind of tired. It's getting late, and I'm just like, holy smokes! I'm like a early to bed, early to rise. 725 pounds.
Did I go below?
You went low.
I tried to exaggerate.
I'm just kidding.
Are you serious?
No.
Oh my
so
gosh.
I pulled several quotes from this. It was a really good episode. I don't have the name of the guy that he was interviewing, but he talked about healing, specifically, like, how do you know when you're healing or have been healed of something? And so I just want to say what he said and then maybe get your thoughts on this. So he said, you know you're healing or you've been healed when you stop using any of your energy to manage the past.
Dang, that's
what do you think about that?
I like that a lot.
Yeah, I thought that was awesome. When you stop using energy to manage the past. I think so many of us
stop using energy to manage the past.
Yeah. He used that specifically to manage the past, because I think so much, like, a lot of us sit and live in the past, right? Like, we sit and we're like, things that happen to us, things that happen to somebody else you care about, things that somebody did to you. In any other events that could cause, you to be, rise to anger or trigger you to madness or whatever it is. But yeah, we spend so much time trying to manage our thoughts that are in the past that we stay stuck there, and you're not truly healed from that thing.
Yes, 100%.
And it's unique for everyone. Everyone probably has their own thing in their mind right now. They're thinking like, why do I spend so much of my energy thinking about that?
Yeah.
You still got to work on it. If it's still there, you still got to work on it.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But he's saying that he knows. So specifically the guy that he was interviewing today, he raised 10 kids, some biological, some he adopted. He grew up in a really messed up home situation. He said there were like 7-8 bullet holes in his walls of his house. He watched his mom shoot his stepdad, and then his mom overdosed on drugs when he was 16 and died.
Good hell.
And he went on to just like, this guy's an amazing guy. Like, he built this amazing company, and he consults for a lot of really famous people, specifically around security and making sure people don't get harmed. But he had all these just like little zingers that were so good. But yeah, he had every reason to look back and be mad about certain situations, think about his mom's situation. He could dwell on that and just be like, you left me when I was 16 years old in that situation. I watched you do the most horrible things, and he talked about how, like, when he talks about it today, he'll have people ask him like, why don't you get fired up about that when you bring up these things? What does it not make you talk about it like it's not even a big deal? And he says, because it's not a big deal to me anymore. I've healed from it. And so I don't spend any of my energy being upset about it anymore. So that was kind of his measure of healing. And then, I was trying to think about where else he went with that. Oh, and then he went on this whole thing about gratitude and how he looks at situations in life or people. Specifically, he was talking about people that have wronged him or upset him, and how you can look at them with anger, you can hold, like, resent them, you can do all these things, but how it's made such a huge difference in his life to focus so heavily on the gratitude side of things, that he looks at every single person that just drives him crazy in life with a measure of gratitude. For instance, like, you have someone in your life that maybe just upsets you for whatever reason, or has just been horrible to you, or impacted you in a negative way. There's so many ways you can look at that. You can carry that with you and be mad at them the rest of your life, or you can be incredibly grateful that of all the things they're teaching you through their bad behavior or their,
That's tough.
poor
That's so
actions. It's
true.
it's tough. It's
So
way tough.
true,
But
though.
as you build up some boundaries, we all build up boundaries in certain situations so that we don't, so we don't have, like, certain things that drive us to extreme anxiety or whatever. Like, we have to build up some boundaries, but also within those boundaries in our relationships, just have an overwhelming sense of gratitude for all this, whether it's good or bad. Like, you know what I'm saying? All the
Yeah.
negative things in our life, it's how we learn. If we didn't have these, people or triggers in our life, we'd never be able to learn from it. So anyway, it's a really interesting podcast today, and specifically I wanted to pull out that piece about healing.
I find that so interesting because I, like, obviously dealing with anxiety for a long time. I've gone to lots of different, like, therapies and stuff, and one thing that was tough for me in certain ones is when they always want to talk about your childhood. Obviously, like, let's figure out why you think the way you think and why you go down those rabbit holes of thinking. And I remember, like, on with different, I mean, it sounds like I've been to like a million therapists, but the therapists I've talked to about my childhood, I sometimes would quit going to them because after a while I would realize they're basically saying I am the way I am because of a tough moments in childhood, and that's just how it is. And I didn't feel like I could ever get past. I felt like imprisoned by my upbringing, or, like, trauma is such a trigger word, but, like, or a trigger word, but it's such a buzzword right now. But, like, to injustices or things that happen to you, I felt like that was giving me an excuse to be like, yeah, that's why I lose my temper. That's why. So it's fine. It's not my fault. It's how I was raised. And I remember feeling like I feel like I got to stop going to them because it's just like your trauma. That's just how you are. And I'm like, I know, but I feel like at some point there's, like, I shouldn't just be like, I'm lose my patience with my kids and just be like, sorry guys, like, it's my drama, you guys got to just deal with it. I'm just going to pass it on to you guys. Like, I felt like, but at what point can I learn to, like, rewire my brain and be like, I don't have to, like, that story you said, man, is amazing. Like, easily that guy could have just been like, my life was hell, so that's just what I'm going to deliver to the world because that's what I was given. And he had the reasoning or the excuse to do that. But I do feel like people like him are inspiring because they're like, it doesn't mean I have to do that. Like, I can interrupt the pattern, and I can, like, that what you said, that quote about, like, your past I feel like it hit home to me so hard because I lived in that mindset for a long time of just like, but my past, like, did this to me, or this was unfair and I can't get past it, or I'm still dealing with it. And then you can go into a state of like, but what did I learn from it, or who am I because of that now?
Mm-hmm.
And can I use that to kind of step into a new power to, like, maybe empower someone else or help someone? And I do, as weird as this sounds, I did when I was dealing with a lot of anxiety and I was really starting to get to the root of it and start to see things like opening up and moments. I literally had this day where I felt this overwhelming gratitude that I had anxiety, that I had experienced anxiety. Like I was like, I am so grateful for it. And I remember I think I told my wife or someone, and they were just like, I don't think it was my wife. I think it was a buddy or something. And it was just such a weird thing for them to hear. And I was like, because of that, it's led me to so many deep things. It's led me to have this like overwhelming empathy for people who are struggling. Like I want to like hear them and know that they have like a shoulder or they need help. Like I want to be there for them. If someone's really struggling with something that I have no clue what that would be like, it makes me empathize for like, that's got to be so hard. And I don't understand what that's like, but I want you to know, like, I'm here for you, you know? Or so there's that. And then, of course, all the other things that I like never would have tried breath work without it. I never would have tried probably yoga and stuff without experiencing that because I was just looking for answers and solutions. And so, yeah, in a weird way, I that really hit home to me because I remember that experience of just like, man, I feel grateful for that. So many good things have come into my life because of it, you know?
Well, and on that point, there's other people that have benefited and have been blessed because you've been through that too. Going back to that guy that you said was super hesitant to go to your class, gave you chills because you're just like, he shows up, he gets in there, next thing you know, he's crying and he's having that moment. And when he talks to you about it, because of some of the, anxiety or other things you dealt with prior and really through most of your life, you were able to look at him and say, I know exactly what you're feeling. I know exactly how you feel right now. That moment of feeling like, wow, I just had this experience doing breath work that was really could have been in many cases life-saving,
Mm-hmm.
So if we don't have some of these challenges, like how are we expected to empathize and, sympathize with other people that are going through the same challenges? And that's one of the biggest, takeaways of challenges and trials that we deal with as people is that it allows us to really connect with others and serve and help others. Otherwise, like we wouldn't understand,
Yeah.
Um, but anyway, man, you did say something that we're getting close on time. Actually, I think we're getting past it. It's night.
You tell me when. It's night. It's time it's 8:00. It's time for bed.
No, I like to end most of these podcasts. Sometimes I forget to ask the question because it just doesn't go there. But you just said something that I thought was really interesting. When you're talking about your anxiety and, how these therapists would bring up kind of your childhood and trying to figure out, well, it becomes kind of an excuse in a way of saying like, well, it's how it's been and it's how it's going to be. And I'm going to rise to anger and it is what it is. Sorry, it's my thing. And I'm just passing it on to you. You said passing it on to your kids. So that's what kind of unlocked this question for me is, when you think about all of these things, everything you've been through, you have 5 kids, right?
I do.
What does generational health mean to you?
Man, that's huge. To me, generational health is like starting with myself, taking care of myself and passing that on to my kids as well. I'll try not to get emotional talking about my kiddos, but there's been moments where I've seen like the things I've dealt with, I've seen at a small level with my little kids, like my 14-year-old daughter having trouble sleeping or like overthinking things that I look at. And in my mind, I've had those moments of like, oh no, like I see that side of myself in that. And I remember one night just like, hey, do you want to try like a breath work with me? Because I actually know what you're feeling and you're feeling this thing that can be a little scary. But how about instead of us running away from it, how about we like kind of face it together? And how about we kind of like breathe through it and just kind of like let our body feel what it's feeling and just see what happens afterwards. And we did this like super short, like maybe less than 5 minutes. We were kind of just like tapping parts of our body, just like feeling safe, like I'm safe, I'm protected, I'm in bed, it's time for sleep. Today was a great day. I did everything I could do today. Tomorrow's going to be a great day. and now's the time for me to sleep. And I love myself, I love my family, and we kind of just did these slow breaths. And I remember, because this had been going on for a while, where she would come into our room like, I can't sleep, and I'd kind of lay by her, and I would think she was out, and like 30 minutes later she'd be like, Dad, are you still up? And I'm like, yeah, I'm here. And so after this had been going on, I kind of was just like, let's do this. And we got done, and I was just like, how do you feel? And she's like, I just feel really calm right now. And she was asleep within like 2 minutes. And then she was sleeping good. And then a few nights later, she came in and was like, can we do that meditation? Like, without me asking her or anything, she's like, can we do that? And we did it. And again, she fell right to sleep. And then it started happening with my son having nightmares. And we started doing it with him. And he's like, Dad, can we do a meditation tonight? I just have a weird feeling like I'm going to have nightmares. Yeah, for sure. And then we were doing it with our 6-year-old, you know, and I just felt this like, I just felt this like extreme gratitude that I had experienced, what I experienced, to like at a young age put words to what they were feeling. And like, it's okay to feel these things. Like, you're not your thoughts, you're not your emotions, but let's just breathe through them and let them happen and feel them. Sometimes when we run away from that monster, it can seem so scary. And I visualize it sometimes of that. Like, I picture like a little kid running from that monster. And when he turns around and starts going towards it, that's when he's like, I got this. Like, it's not as scary as I thought. And so generational health, to me, I think of that just being able to just care enough about taking care of ourselves that it feels more natural for them to do the same for themselves and to love themselves. I saw a reel one time where someone was, it might sound corny, but they were like, I would die for my kids. And it's like, we would all die for our kids. Would you live for your kids? Would you put in the work to do whatever it takes to like help your kids feel safe when they come home, you know? And that's what, I don't know, that's what I thought of when you asked me that. So.
Dude, you're a stud, man. Like I said, I've only known you for just over a year, and I've been drawn to you. I feel like you just have this thing about you that is kind of calming, but just can be completely authentically myself around you. And anyway, I appreciate our new friendship.
Yeah,
and,
I appreciate it. I feel the same about you.
Man, I'm looking forward to many more years of friendship, but thanks for coming in. I think this was an awesome conversation, and I appreciate you making the time to come in here.
Cool.
Thanks, man.
Thanks, Cole. You're the best. Appreciate it, dude.
You got it.